2 days ago, I slept with Benjamin, Fiona said offhandedly, one arm hooked in mine while the other mindlessly picked through mall clothes. Her casual tone nearly gave me a heart attack. Fiona, my friend. Benjamin, my boss's boss, the company's top boss. I tried to stay calm as my brain flashed back to last weekend's victory party, how she'd gotten wasted and ended up at Benjamin's table. It suddenly clicked. I wanted to kick myself for not realizing it earlier. The signs were right there that night. Chapter 1. This is Fiona. She doesn't work here and never loses drinking battles. That night she collapsed, yet texted me clearly afterwards saying not to wait. She had plans.
Me?
I just sneaked nervous toast to the bosses and stuffed my face in a corner all night, left with the belt about to pop. Fiona wasn't holding back, grabbing clothes like grocery shopping and throwing them all onto the checkout counter. The POS machine whirred as receipts printed, music to her ears. She flashed Benjamin's black card with a wink.
His card.
Why not put it to good use? Thinking back, the signs were there from the start. When I first showed her our company's annual party photo, she took interest in Benjamin. She began asking about my work and scoured his info online. Elite school grad, workaholic, clean reputation, that rare decent guy among the rich. As Benjamin's assistant's assistant, I barely saw his shadow. Yet one casual office party later, she'd bagged him. Classic Fiona. A first-class manipulator, the ultimate predator in romance's food chain. Just as we walked out of the mall loaded with shopping bags, Fiona froze. Following her stare, I saw a huge outdoor LED screen airing our company's live fashion show. The shaky camera swept backstage, flashing Benjamin's back as he bent to kiss a model's delicate shoulder blades. That model was Ting Ching, his official girlfriend, known for her regal posture and elegant aura. I'd always remembered her straight-backed poise. Fiona stood frozen, her eyes locked on the screen. That type of woman must be full of herself, she said, grip tightening on my arm. Her hand shook slightly, pupils shrinking as excitement lit up her face. A mean little smile twisted her lips, eyes gleaming like a hunter spotting prey. They won't work out. I sighed. That's Fiona for you. Did she like Benjamin? Not really. What she loved was the thrill of the chase, proving her charm by crushing others underfoot. She's been this way since we were kids. She's the one who showed me what a true master manipulator looks like, bending over backward to please people, but only to feed her own ego. Honestly, I had my own reasons for introducing Benjamin to her. If she was focused on someone else, I thought I'd be safe. Seeing the chance, I decided to come clean. So, I'm seeing someone, I said carefully. We're getting married this year.
What?
Fiona immediately looked back, eyes wide.
Who?
When? How come I didn't know? Seeing my awkward smile, she narrowed her eyes. You hid this from me? How dare you? With a huff, Fiona attacked my ticklish sides. Enough. Bring him to my birthday next month. I'll vet him myself. I shrieked and squirmed, gasping promises between laughs until she finally released me, her fake anger dissolving into a smug grin. Chapter 2. With Fiona's birthday approaching, I curled up on the couch, biting my nails while hunting for her gift. My days were already filled with picking presents for work, and now I had to brainstorm for this diva.
Exhausting.
Then my phone buzzed, a delivery alert. Package refused. Returning to sender. The 7th rejection in a row. Jewelry, flowers, bags, shoes, nothing worked. I took a screenshot and sent it to Assistant Jung, then looked at Marco. He sat at the dining table, focused on law firm work. He'd worked hard building his career in the city and done well for himself. My eyes kept darting between my phone and him. After several glances, he shut his laptop, plopped down beside me and laughed, spit it out. I rested my head on his shoulder, speaking fast in a hushed tone. I want you to meet my best friend. Marco nodded calmly. Fiona, right? He shifted to rest his head atop mine, amused. Should meet her already. You talk about her so much. I'm curious now. His arm slid around my waist as we settled into our usual TV watching position, me leaning against him propping his chin on my head. We did this often, and I never tired of it. The TV aired entertainment news. After the Star Awards red carpet, reporters crowded around Ting Ching, dozens of microphones pointed at her, asking about her boyfriend being filmed in an underground parking garage with someone outside the celebrity circle. On screen, she wore a sheer backless dress in the freezing cold. Harsh winds stuck her styled bangs to her face as she stood alone among bundled-up reporters in puffy jackets, looking small and exposed. The news cut to paparazzi footage, a shaky, distant shot where faces blurred. Yet even through the grainy mess, I knew instantly, Fiona. Her curvy frame gave her away. When she wore stockings, they'd dig into her thighs, leaving that soft little bulge no one could miss. I couldn't help but think back to what she told me when we said goodbye after shopping that day. Even if the guy's a saint, Ting Ching's figure is too icy for him, let alone her personality. A faint smile lingered on her lips. Top-grade beef might taste best, but lust hits hardest when it's cheap and raw. I was speechless. Fiona understood human desire on a level I could never reach. She wielded charm effortlessly, while I doubted I'd ever grasp such things in my lifetime. Beyond that, she was ambitious, sharp, and never hesitated to go all in. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Assistant Zheng's reply. I kept staring at the TV, waiting nervously for what came next. After a short pause, Ting Ching said coldly she didn't know the details and they'd broken up. She walked off quickly, leaving the camera focused on her straight back, still elegant and proud, but looking somehow small and alone. The screen cut to other celebrities, snapping me back to reality. I looked down at my phone. A single-line message confirmed with Mr. Chen. No more gifts needed. My jaw dropped. This battle had been won before the war horn even blew. Absolutely incredible. Fiona, oh Fiona. She could always find that soft spot in men's hearts and tug at it effortlessly. Victories came so easily to her. No wonder she'd kept playing this game year after year, never tiring of the chase. Marco's steady breathing ruffled my hair. He closed his eyes and began to nod off. I quietly scooted over to study him, my eyes traveling across his smooth forehead, straight nose, rosy lips, finally resting on that little hollow where his collarbones met. Let's face it, Marco had it all. Successful career, good looks. Maybe not Benjamin level, but still solid. Being around Fiona must have rubbed off on me somehow. Between copying her moves and getting lucky, I somehow wound up with Marco. I knew my limits. Marco was probably the best I could get if I reached a little higher. But was introducing him to Fiona really wise? Would things go as I imagined? My chest tightened with unease. With no answers coming, I just nestled closer to Marco, pressing my face into his warm embrace to bury the worry. Chapter 3. Fiona picked a classy Cantonese restaurant for her birthday dinner. Before that, I'd been quietly swapping out Marco's toiletries and cologne to match my own scent. They say if you get a man used to your smell, his brain starts linking it to love. This trick was something Fiona taught me in college. She lay sprawled on my dorm bed, painting her nails with crossed legs, eagerly sharing her discovery. They say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, but that's incomplete. To make him love you long-term, you need to train all his senses: taste, sight, hearing, smell. They're all tools you can use. Fiona was a pro at this game. Before the birthday dinner, I kept pushing her to bring her boyfriend too, claiming it would help Marco feel less outnumbered. We both knew the truth. I needed backup. I'd always been the ugly duckling next to her swan, never matching her looks or smarts. She only kept me around because I made her shine brighter, like permanent second fiddle to her star performance. But this time, I vowed to guard what was mine. What I hadn't expected was Benjamin actually coming. He arrived slightly early after picking up Fiona, stood up politely to shake hands with me and Marco. His palms felt firm and dry. Fiona barely grazed Marco's fingertips before letting go, greeting him with a warm smile. "I've heard so much about you. We're practically family." While they chatted, I sneaked a look at Benjamin. It felt strange. Until now, I'd only ever glimpsed him from across crowded meeting rooms. He wore a casual hoodie with light blue jeans today. His hair wasn't slicked back as usual, just falling softly over his forehead like any good-looking guy next door. Sitting this close to him, at the same table, would have been unimaginable before. Our boss employee line got crossed tonight, all thanks to Fiona. Benjamin graciously poured water for everyone and handed Fiona the menu. I knew she'd notice Marco, and I shared the same scent. Hiding behind the menu, she teasingly winked at me and mouthed, "Relax." She was the ultimate villain. Dangerous yet captivating. My face flushed as I stared into my glass. Marco, a skilled lawyer, was naturally articulate, and Benjamin kept up just as well. Would Fiona take an interest in Marco? I wondered. I knew Marco fit Fiona's preferences perfectly. The dinner lasted nearly 3 hours, staying relaxed and enjoyable without awkward pauses. Benjamin paid the bill in the end. As we left, Fiona stood at the restaurant door waving goodbye to me and Marco. "Keep it up," she told him with a grin, casually reaching to pat his shoulder. My pulse quickened. I smoothly slipped between them, meeting her raised hand with a light high five instead. She blinked in surprise. Just as Benjamin came back from settling the bill, Fiona melted against him with a lazy hug. All evening she'd walked the perfect line, chatting with Marco just enough to seem friendly, never crossing boundaries. But watching her flawless act only made a heavy dread settle in my chest. Nobody knew her tricks better than me. As we walked away, I took out a compact to fix my lipstick. In the mirror's reflection, they still stood by the restaurant door, locked in a sweet hug. Fiona's face rested on Benjamin's shoulder, watching Marco and me with a thoughtful look. Would things go smoothly? My mind raced all the way home. Marco noticed. The moment we entered, he turned and pulled me close, one arm around my shoulders, his palm pressing against my lower back. "What's wrong?" His lips brushed my jawline, trailing damp warmth to my ear. Through our thin clothes, I felt his burning chest heat. "Am I not good enough for you? You're so perfect." Marco paused, then murmured, "Don't worry. Girls like that aren't my style." My stomach dropped. He kissed my neck, his lips moving lower until they reached my chest. I wrapped my arms around his neck, kissing him back with all I had. Both had told me not to worry tonight. But I stood unarmed against Fiona's charms. My heart kept sinking, dark thoughts swirling tighter in my chest. The unease wouldn't fade. Chapter 4. I'm not sure if it's my imagination, but since that day, Marco seems to be working overtime more often. His job's always been stressful, but now my anxiety's making me check his discarded shirts for strange hairs and bury my face in his dirty laundry, sniffing for unfamiliar perfumes. Even worse, I keep casually asking about his whereabouts. At first, Marco patiently explained, but later he just frowned and stayed silent. He probably still loves me, but he definitely doesn't care for me as much. I'm panicking. Deep down I know these actions push people away, but I can't control myself. Every night Marco comes home late. I can't sit still, tortured by every passing minute. I'm driving him away.
I know this isn't right.
But I can't stop. Sometimes from upstairs, I spot Marco's car parked below. He sits inside smoking, cigarette glow flickering in the dark, refusing to come up. Fiona still drags me out shopping sometimes. We buy clothes, get fancy nails, all charged to Benjamin's card. He'll call during our trips. Fiona's either grabbing armfuls of clothes or staring at nail colors, answering him with lazy MHS, couldn't care less. Found a new target? I ask. Fiona browses nail designs leisurely, glancing at me with a playful smile. Guess, she purrs, her teasing tone sweet yet provoking, making me adore and resent her all at once. I tell myself even Fiona wouldn't target her friend's fiancé, especially since Marco and I are marrying this year. Still, I pity Benjamin. Her crushes burn bright, but fade fast. Any man who falls for Fiona gets wrapped around her finger, no matter how amazing he is. She doesn't care about love, just about winning. And in love, whoever falls first loses forever. The clock read 1:30 a.m. A soft click came from the front door. I shot up from the couch and snapped. Where were you? Marco stood with his navy suit jacket hanging over his arm, looking worn out. He frowned at me. Drank with a client. Not this again. I'm stressed enough. The words of concern stuck in my throat. I paused, realizing I'd been too harsh. Sorry, I whispered, cheeks burning with shame as I hurried over to take his jacket. Marco went straight to the shower. He'd been tired for weeks, and we hadn't been close in so long. As I brushed dust off his jacket, about to iron it, I froze. Gently lifting the edge of the narrow lapel, I found a long chestnut curl. My mind exploded. My body turned ice cold. That shade was rare. A few days ago, Fiona sent me a selfie showing off her new hair color, saying how good it looked. She even asked me to dye mine the same. The photo showed that exact chestnut shade, matching the curls and length perfectly. Why push so hard? I trembled as it hit me. If our hair matched, any fallen strands would blend right in. Same old Fiona. Never changes. Part of me felt grimly satisfied, part utterly crushed. Chapter 5. The next few days passed in a blur. At work I kept zoning out, not even noticing Benjamin approach my desk until he tapped it with his knuckles. Has Fiona visited you lately? He asked gravely. She seemed off these days. Is something bothering her? I looked up at him dazed. There he stood in his sharp suit, hair perfectly groomed, nothing like the relaxed guy from dinner. He'd become the big boss again, yet something had shifted. Now he sought me out himself, because we were both Fiona's heartbroken comrades. Two love's casualties clinging to wreckage. I shook my head. He sighed and turned to go, but I grabbed his jacket. My voice came out quiet but loud. Drink with me later? I was drunk.
So drunk.
I couldn't stop rambling about everything. My frustrations, how men were so awful and fake, how friendship wasn't worth a dime. Deep down I knew why. Marco worked so hard at everything, his job, his relationships. Maybe he really thought I wasn't good enough for him, especially compared to someone like Fiona. My words slurred from drink as I repeated the same complaints endlessly. When Benjamin couldn't take it anymore and moved to help me home, then I twisted away and puked on the pavement, using my last clear thought to avoid his shoes. After hesitating, Benjamin hauled my limp, drunken body over his shoulder and hailed a taxi to the nearest fancy hotel. Not knowing my address, he had the driver stop for bottled water to rinse my mouth. When helped out of the cab, I wobbled so badly we almost collapsed together at the entrance. The hotel's glittering gold doors rotated slowly, the bright lights hurting my bleary eyes but clearing my head a little. Do you hate me? I asked. Fate's strange. Benjamin, who I could never imagine approaching before, was now here listening to my drunk babbling. I never could have done this alone. His model girlfriend alone would have scared me off. Maybe I should thank Fiona. In the chilly breeze, I saw him shake his head. Tears welled up and started flowing down my cheeks. Blinking through my watery eyes, I whispered Marco, tilting my face up with lips pursed like a ripe cherry ready to be picked. I said someone else's name instead. Too scared to say his real name, afraid it would ruin everything. The cold night wind blew again. A thin crescent moon hung in the dark sky as I stood frozen, waiting. Then, a kiss. Quick and light, like a dragonfly touching water. It wasn't a lover's kiss, just a polite, friendly peck. My eyelashes trembled. Tears rolled down my cheeks. Chapter 6. Only Benjamin knew my pain. I told neither Marco nor Fiona. The Shun men were always meant to ruin me. Sometimes Benjamin and I would have a drink together, but nothing more. He was perfect, an untouchable star yet decent at heart. As a workaholic who rarely dated, Ting Ching exhausted him while Fiona confused him. Still he tried to make this relationship work. These secrets belonged to us alone. My heart danced. Once a star in the sky, Benjamin had now halfway fallen to earth. He'd become someone I could almost reach on tiptoe if I tried. Yet he either refused to believe my hints about Fiona or pretended not to. No matter. If he stayed silent, so would I. Time would reveal everything, as long as I knew my truth. Everything was calm, as if no one had strayed. Days passed through spring and summer into August. When Fiona called saying she'd spend Chishi with Benjamin this year, I chuckled. Congrats? Later, Marco finally texted about working overtime. I exhaled slowly, no shock there. Calling back softly, I reminded him, rest well. I'll wait at home. After hanging up, I sat alone on the couch, staring at the empty house. The only sound was the clock ticking away the seconds. On this beautiful night, who will you be with? A star in the sky, or earthly filth offering forbidden thrills? Closing my eyes, I began to wonder. I'd done this countless times, like a bug hiding in darkness, watching and plotting. Then a strange idea struck me. It grew louder and louder, until it boomed like a giant bell echoing in my chest. I felt fate calling. Tonight.
Now.
I nearly laughed out loud. I knew him inside out. My efforts were finally paying off. I slipped into my finest dress, perfected my makeup, and picked out an unopened bottle of good wine from the cabinet. On this lover's night, heart racing, I raced back to the office and knocked on my boss's door. Benjamin the workaholic was exactly where he should be. The door opened moments later. Smiling up at his weary face, I asked, "Where's Fiona?" "It's Valentine's Day," he answered with a soft sigh. Maybe he'd been waiting too, waiting for clarity. Finally, he surrendered. "What do you want?" I showed him the blinking green dot on my phone. "Think I know where she is. Wanna come find hers?" I'd secretly turned on Marco's location sharing. The map said he was at the office, but I knew he wasn't alone. I got a visitor pass downstairs. The front desk girl knew me, so it all went smoothly, just like everything up to now. Before Benjamin and I even reached the office door, I heard unmistakable noises. Both voices sounded familiar. "What's inside?" "Marco's probably still dressed, while she's stripped bare except for panties dangling from her lifted foot. After all, filthiest lust brings the wildest thrills. She must be drunk on victory right now. Do you still want to go in?" I waved the wine bottle at Benjamin. Fiona was beautiful, 1,000 times more than me. She could pull unreachable men down from heaven. But without her knowing, I'd swung the final hammer of judgment. Every last bit of Benjamin's feelings for her got crushed in that secret courtroom.
His confusion was gone now.
"I don't need to," Benjamin said coldly, turning away. To let them toast their joy immediately after emerging, I set the unopened bottle perfectly on the desk closest to Marco's office door. Picturing their faces, I could have sung out loud. I'd waited years for this moment. For Benjamin, I'd played the long game. With one last look back, I followed Benjamin downstairs to the underground garage. I got in the passenger seat, shut the door, and hit the privacy glass button. No way was I getting filmed. Benjamin was crying. My star, my heart was breaking. Leaning over, I kissed his tears away. His beautiful eyes locked onto mine, staring only at me. "I'll never betray you," I said. He was so close now, his broken heart right there for the taking. "Remember that saying about low desires being the sweetest?" I bent down and pulled open Benjamin's zipper. He didn't stop me this time. The student had outdone the teacher. What a quick learner I was. On this soft summer love night, prizes go to those who plan ahead. Chapter 7. What came next was very simple, everything falling naturally into place. I couldn't let this chance slip away. Striking while the iron was hot, Benjamin and I quickly got our marriage license. We signed a prenup. Cheaters walk away with nothing. We both wanted that security. After pouring so much into this relationship, I needed to seal the deal for good. Fiona remained unmarried. She still drifted between men, chasing the thrill of the hunt. Was she still pursuing victory? I didn't know and no longer cared. After scrolling indifferently through her social media, I turned off my phone. Since that night, Marco seemed to figure something out and cut all contact. I knew it wasn't guilt but shame. As for Fiona, Benjamin must have had it out with her privately. Neither contacted me again. I kept Fiona unblocked. Her social media still amused me sometimes. After all, she taught me a lot. I was grateful for that. The room was warm from the heater. The harsh wind outside felt gentle now. The glow from our passions still lingered. I turned to watch Benjamin sleeping. His breathing stayed steady, his face calm and happy. My eyes traced his smooth forehead, Straight nose, rosy lips, then settled in the dip of his collarbone. He was no longer my boss's boss, no longer the company's distant star. From the first moment I saw this man, I knew I shouldn't have him, but craved him deeply. My fingers traced his brow, then slipped to the back of his head, palm cradling his soft, damp hair. Did I love Marco? Maybe a little. But he was too short. I could reach him by tiptoeing. I've always wanted the stars. Back then, Benjamin had it all. Success, a gorgeous girlfriend, while I was just some junior assistant who couldn't touch his coat. No chance of winning. A thick wall stood between us, unseen but impossible to miss. I was meant to stay in the shadows forever, just a speck of dust staring up at that distant star. In love, whoever falls first loses. But luckily, I had a top hunter with me. I was never as good as Fiona, not as pretty or smart. But she was bold, competitive, and always wanted what she couldn't have. Marco was perfect for her. So I hid Marco away, acting like he mattered, then accidentally letting her find him. Let her look but not touch. Make her curious and jealous. Fiona couldn't stand it. How could a weak, clumsy leaf have treasure she'd never touched? Thank God I understood my predator. If I couldn't hunt, I'd fish instead, scooping up wounded prey she'd shot down, hauling it ashore to heal. My fallen star from the heavens. Perhaps sensing my gaze, Benjamin blinked awake sleepily before shutting his eyes again. Not tired, he mumbled. Sleeping, I whispered, burrowing into blankets and cradling his head.
Sleep now.
Sleep, my star. The night sky twinkled with stars as soft moonlight filtered through the window, spilling across the pale sheets. With a smile, I closed my eyes. I'd sleep well tonight.